Yeah.
Going live. I want to know more about that because I didn't know you could scan checks with that. I mean, it's almost irrelevant for me because I get checks so infrequently, but when I do, they're usually large. And anyway, hi, we're live. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
Talking about scanning large checks with only half the conversation.
Yeah.
We don't sound shady, do we?
We have a very special guest star here today who hasn't been with us in a very long time. We have
What would that be?
the lovely Nancy Smith is joining us. I feel very blessed to have Nancy with us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Get snowed in?
No.
But it's pretty. It's pretty.
We've got maybe 6 inches at the most, but oh my God, is it cold?
Yeah.
What did they get in Buffalo? Like, I heard they got something like 9 feet of snow in Buffalo. Is that right? Did I hear that?
They
right?
got 60 inches in the first storm.
60 inches.
That's
What's
okay.
60 divided by 12? How many feet is that? That's like 5 feet.
Yeah, taller than me. Okay.
That's crazy.
I mean, I could not go outside. I mean, I'd be buried.
That is nuts.
It can stay over there on the other side of Lake Champlain for all I care. I am just not ready for winter this year.
What's crazy is it's some sort of a lake something, and
Lake affects
10 minutes
snow.
away they have no snow.
Yep. Lake affects snow.
Yeah, lake effect, yeah. We don't know about that stuff down here.
It can be hard.
Yeah.
Well, Nancy, I have to say you sent that Microsoft Windows update jinx my way.
Oh,
I had just restarted to install the updates before you said your problems, and now my Chrome is blown away.
Oh my God! I didn't do it on purpose. It was lake affects snow.
I don't know why you guys still use Outlook.
Well, no, this was a computer. This was a Windows operating system update. Mine was. I mean, it comes down automatically, and this is on my Windows 8 machine, and I just restarted it to install the updates, and now my Chrome has been blown away.
That's weird, because I got those updates. I installed them, but I haven't had any issues.
well, there was something serious this week where they wanted you to install right away.
Oh my God! They have been pushing out so many updates lately. It's like, you know, between my big computer up at the office and my laptop down here, and then I have another machine that I've been using for some testing. I swear to God, between the three of them, I have done absolutely nothing but like
Wait.
Yes.
Wait for updates, yeah.
You know, it's like, no wonder I don't get anywhere, get anything done, you know?
You feel like you waste hours of your life doing this.
Oh my God, yeah, and then there's the QuickBooks updates, and there's this update, and that update, and you know what? I made up my mind, I'm getting old, I want an update.
I want one of those.
Yeah, figure out how to do that. I'm in.
Isn't that awful? But it is, I mean, and people wonder why with our software we don't do automatic updates.
Right.
You know, and it's like, I would scream if one more person did an automatic update. And
For it to be down.
I want to load that new operating system on my iPad because I've got like, notices 60 apps that want to be updated. My husband's like, no. The last one, it blew off everything off his iPad, but mine was fine. So now we're both scared to do it.
Oh wow!
But LastPass, if I can get it upgraded, LastPass will now work better on your iPad and some other things. So I want it, but I'm scared of it.
I'm scared of Google on my tablet. It just takes over.
Nancy, what's your Twitter handle? Sunburst, is it Sunburst_software?
No, it's just at Sunburst SFTWRE.
Yes,
Oh
you
no! How often do I tweet myself? Hold on.
We scared off Jessica.
I think there's technical issues happening here.
Yeah, where is everybody? This isn't.
Stacy
normal.
tried to come on. I saw her trying.
She did?
Yeah.
Why can you see
Your
it?
SVP maybe that she wasn't coming necessarily.
No, it says Stacy joined group. Stacy left group. I didn't even notice her.
I didn't see her picture, but I saw that she tried to come in, and there was like a black square with Stacy's name on it.
Huh. I posted the link right in the event page like I normally do. Usually that works.
You have to, Seth, send a message to Stacy and Jessica. Here's Jess.
Jessica.
She's coming back.
There
I
it
had to
is.
send all of my
That means they've
invites
got the
out by
access.
message last week.
Seth, I just put my Twitter handle in the chat.
Okay, yeah, because you're not coming up on Twitter. I'm trying to tweet to the world that you're with us today.
Like the world will care.
They will. They'll get all excited and they will come running.
Yeah, no, they won't. Yeah, they'll come running all right.
Watch your
The opposite direction.
So I just sent Stacy Kildall a personal invitation. I hope she appreciates it. And for those of you who are watching live or at home, next week on the QB show, we're going to be giving away something from School of Bookkeeping on the QB show. So
Great.
I'm going to be there on their show, and we're going to be talking about stuff, and then we're going to give something away.
Awesome.
Cool, we all love Steph.
I love stuff.
Sure do. Nancy, I'm very upset that your Twitter handle is not coming up automatically for me. I don't like to have to actually do things. I like when things just work.
That's because I've been such a ghost here for the last 7 months.
Yeah.
It was summer, it was garden time, and
Yeah.
but by the time that Friday morning hangout came, I wasn't fit to be seen.
We weren't even seeing you at 5:30.
No, oh God, Lord no. Lord no, I haven't been anywhere. I mean, well, yeah, I have. I've been in the yard.
You done canning?
Oh, thank God, yes.
Lucky.
I picked, let's see, 10 gallons of raspberries off my bushes this year.
Wow.
And for anybody who has raspberries, you know it takes a long time to get 10 gallons worth.
Yes, it does.
It's much easier to pick 10 gallons worth of blueberries than it is 10 gallons worth of raspberries.
Or strawberries.
Oh Lord, yeah.
Oh, kids today.
I know. Aren't we awful?
Sure
I'm just getting ready. I'm getting ready for the main event here.
QuickBooks.
I'm running my reports so we can rock and roll soon.
Ooh, I just sold a program. Lebanon, Tennessee.
Isn't that always exciting?
It's been a good day already. Hanging with my friends, making money.
I like the making money part.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit, I'm
What are
like
you doing in
hanging
your
with a
hangout today?
friend.
Jessica, are you with us?
I am. My thing is frozen.
The
looks like I'm in
picture.
pain. My picture looks like I'm in pain.
She's a Jessical.
There. I'm changing to my regular picture from my profile.
Huh.
I'm actually in Minnesota today. I drove from South Florida to Minnesota over the last 3 days by myself.
Oh, you're crazy.
Wow.
Pretty much, yeah. We had to bring my grandparents' car up here, and I was coming anyway for the Thanksgiving holiday, so I just drove it over the last 3 days here. So.
That's a nice granddaughter.
Well, I had actually moved down there to help out with them, and so I'm still in South Florida, but it's flipping cold up here right now.
Oh,
It's
bad.
cold everywhere.
Yeah, your body's not used to that, I'm sure.
Not after 4 years, no. I mean, I grew up here, but it's kind of a shock to the system.
Cool. So we are we ready? Are we up? Do we have the energy to do some Excel stuff this morning?
Oh no.
You
Why
do
do
the
you do all
Excel
the
man.
work?
Well,
What? Too
you're
many
going
people
to do
talking
all the
over-
work. We're just going to sit here.
Yeah, we're gonna watch.
All right, I'm going to get another cup of coffee. You guys talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back, and then we'll start the fun.
right.
I'm just going to keep right on crocheting and listening.
All right. Well, are you going to get to finish the whole monkey before the hangout's over?
Please.
Wait a minute. Outlook is messing up.
Oh no, Sarah. It's Nancy.
Turn off that Outlook stuff.
You guys can see me because this Outlook is like taking over my screen, and I lost you guys. What in the world?
I stopped,
no, Sarah.
I stopped using Outlook a couple of years ago.
So
I use,
Gina-
Well, I've got 10 years worth of. I don't know. We're redoing it. I'm going to try to get Green Rope set up this week, and I've got a 2 weeks trial. And cross your fingers, but it won't replace my email. I can still have an Outlook where
Doesn't it redirect it?
filed within my CRM.
Right.
But I would love to replace Outlook as a.
Google Calendar and Gmail.
Yeah, Google. I don't know.
Google has its own issues, but I've been using Google a lot more than Microsoft. Microsoft is teaching me how to not use their products one product at a time.
Yeah, but I can do both. I go to Gmail when I'm on my apps and phones, and But if I'm sitting at my computer, it just comes down into Outlook anyway. But Outlook, I have it all tweaked out where it all goes into separate folders and.
I always found
I
that.
did that, but it never really worked the way it was supposed to. I'm like
Outlook?
frustrated if it just doesn't work. It just didn't seem to do a good job of sorting. It would miss things. Sometimes it would. Sometimes it wouldn't.
Great. Because see, what I do is I can glance up and see if it's a client or if it's in my low priority or if it's in my store.
Yeah, I do miss that in Chrome or Google. I do miss the folders and having it automatically be sent.
Gmail is supposed to have something like that, but it doesn't work. See that? I can't.
It's called Conversations or something or other where you can flag.
Yeah, they make it so difficult. Only developers know how to use it and can use it. And Larry, you're asking what happened to my Chrome? I am not sure. My it's my Windows 8 laptop. My Windows Explorer is working, but Chrome is not. It just does not come up. It gets that little kill pages error message on it. So after the Hangout, I will uninstall it and reinstall it.
You know what my Chrome's doing? All my little shortcuts across the top are like from years ago, and I'll delete them and get them all back the way I want, and then I'll go on my iPad and they're all back again, and I delete them and I come over here, they're back again. I'm like,
Make sure you're logged into your Chrome account inside Chrome because that's where it keeps that information.
what do you mean logged inside of Chrome?
I will demonstrate.
Well, I'm either in it or I'm not, right?
No,
Yeah.
no, let me show you. It's time to start the Excel thing anyway, but I'll quickly show you the whole Chrome thing.
How do you ever get that Shockwave flashes crashed? I get that all the
Oh,
time.
God.
Shockwave crashes flat.
It's like an Adobe plugin that's always
It's a
crashing.
Flash plugin that works so
yeah,
you can watch
constantly.
videos and run Flash.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to click Present to Everyone. Still don't know what that does, but I'll click it just because it's there.
You don't know. We just click it. Okay.
Just click it. So, all right, so here's Chrome, right? I've got my Sprout Social screen up here, so that's probably safe. When you go up here into Settings,
Yeah.
hold on.
You see those apps across your
Notice how
top?
up here it says Signed In.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah. Okay, hold on.
Okay. Once you're signed in up here, then that account that you're signed into is where it remembers your bookmark settings.
I know.
So make sure that you're signed in on yours.
Well, who else would I be signed in to?
Well, you could have multiple Google accounts.
Well, I do, but it always puts my little picture up in the corner, so I know it's
Well,
me.
that's a different setting, though. This is to manage your synced data in Chrome. Down below here in the users is where you can manage multiple Chrome sessions, but it's two different things. So when I'm logged in as Nerd Enterprises Inc.
It's me, signed in as Sarah. Yeah, it's me.
Okay, so that's where it remembers your settings. It sounds like you may have a conflict then between where you're logged in on one computer versus the other. So what I would do is I would log out of Chrome. I would log out of here, like, click disconnect your Google account on your iPad, get your bookmarks back the way you want them on your computer, then log back in on your iPad, and it should sync up properly.
Yeah, there's some sort of a syncing where no matter what device you go to, it's supposed to be the same. And
Right, that's what controls that, is that sign-in. But what I'm saying is sign out everywhere else except for one place where you can establish what you want your bookmarks to look like. Establish them, that way they're synced up, that way that's got the most recent change. Then when you log in everywhere else, in theory, it should update.
In theory.
In theory.
Yeah, we love theory, don't we?
Oh, I know what I did recently is I I reinstalled it. Okay, I'll play.
All right. So let's talk about cash flow projections. Where this came from is that in the ABO group on Facebook this morning, somebody was asking, I guess somebody has a client who wants their cash flow forecast updated daily.
Oh, I saw that. Yes.
I saw that. Poor girl.
So, yeah, I commented it saying I hope you're charging a lot for that because, I mean, to do that you have to spend the same time whether you're doing it daily or monthly. So what I would charge for a month now, I would basically compound that on a daily basis to do something like this for somebody, because it really means every morning you have to get up and spend, it could be an hour or two depending on how many schedules you have to update, to roll that in, because apparently this client of hers even wants an update done if she gets so much as a single payment on an invoice, which is like, okay, you have an accounting system to handle that.
You have got to be kidding.
No.
What kind of business is it?
Accounting and doesn't know what they're asking.
What kind of business?
I don't know. I don't think she said.
They're so they would be worried about that much about cash flow. That's crazy.
But again, that's why you have bank feeds hooked up to your bank account so you can update daily. I mean, I look at my stuff every day, but when it comes to cash flow forecasts, I never update more frequently than once a month. I mean, once in a while, if we're concerned, if we think there's a problem, we'll do an interim update just to see. Even there, I'll go into the actual QuickBooks file and do the reconciliation up to that day's balance just to make sure I know we've accounted for everything that's actually cleared and so on. But yeah, this is a little crazy. So let me see if I can find the actual post here. Here, so she says, okay, here's a new one. Does anyone have expertise in QuickBooks forecasts? I have a client who's trying to get me to run a forecast almost daily to update this Excel spreadsheet so she knows how much money she'll have at the end of the year. If I never make another sale this year, I need to know if the money will last for the year. Seriously, this is the most irritable, painstaking thing of my existence. First off, I cannot predict what her sales will be in December. I certainly do not know what the cost of those sales will be. And the reality is, I'm going to stop there for a second. When it comes to something like that, I run the burn rate, right? That's what we call it, a burn rate, meaning if I take in no more money this year and knowing what my expenses are going to be, how long will the money last, right? So as long as you have that benchmark in place, it really doesn't matter what the projected sales are as long as you know you have enough to last the rest of the, the remaining month and a half that we have. So that would kind of be my initial response to the client is, we've got a month and a half left in the year. Here's how much is in the bank. Here's your run rate for a month. And, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And if we're running short, then we know we need that much more in sales between now and the end of the year to cover it, or we need to borrow from somewhere, right? I mean, that's basic cash flow management. So, all right, so let's move on. So I can plug in the expenses based on prior month's year's data. She wants me to run this report and change it every time she does a sale and put in the cost of the sale. What I would do is, and I'm going to show you how I would do this in a minute, I'd create a schedule for the sales so that I can and say, okay, I just closed a new deal, right? Or I just made another sale, so that you can add that into the cash flow. I kind of get where the client is coming from on this, because if they feel they're short, then you do want to track every sale that comes in and see the impact on cash flow to see how much closer you're getting to being covered for the year. But it gets better. So let's see. Put in the cost of the sale before we've even received the bill for it. She's a little extreme to say the least, but no different than most entrepreneurs I've worked with. Granted, one sale is approximately $5 to $7 million, and the cost is nearly that. So she has big sales and a very narrow profit margin. So this is where this kind of thing does come up a lot. She makes about $450K per sale. Okay, so that's not a tiny profit margin.
Is that profit or sales price?
No, it sounds like that's the profit. So if it's a $5 to $7 million sale, her profit on that is $450,000.
Well, then she can afford to have this lady reduce Excel every day.
It sounds like she
Seriously.
wants to
But does the lady have the time to? She has other clients. So these are large software sales to large utility companies. She travels a ton, wants to plug in the travel costs, but do not know what they are going to be. So the travel costs, you can come up with a rough average, especially if she's traveling a lot. You could see what the typical travel cost is. Wondering if anyone has some magical software that can predict the future. No, really, is there anything out there that will help? And the answer is the magical software, of course, in my world, is Microsoft Excel. So here's, and I've done this kind of demo a number of times. So if I pull up QuickBooks, we start off with a basic profit and loss and balance sheet. And because I've done this so many times before, I'm going to run through this part quickly. But basically, I'll start with the balance sheet. And we want to run this. The balance sheet is a little different because it's cumulative in nature, of course. So normally the balance sheet is just as of today, but you want to actually set the date range or make sure that it's set for the entire year, because this way I can do this. I can total by month, and it shows me the monthly balance sheet. Mm-hmm. And then we want to back this up in this case because it's a sample file, so it's set into the future. So let's back this up 1 year. And then we'll export that to Excel. So in order to do this sort of properly, and why did my McAfee scan start again? I paused it. I hate McAfee. I hope McAfee dies. Just kidding.
You can't win, even the
What?
even the virus scan is against us today. It's technical issue day.
No, I seriously paused it earlier. I don't know how it started again. And I saw a pop-up asking me, and I'm pretty sure I clicked to essentially do it later, or remind me later.
Oh, all right, Marty.
All right, so this is going to take a minute because I'm taxing my computer's bandwidth. Oh, that's nice. Rhonda posted a comment on this thread saying, get Seth's cash flow projection course, not a lot of money and a whole lot of knowledge. Thanks, Rhonda. I have my Salesforce out there working for me.
Seth, I do want to say that I am watching this on my other computer, and presentation mode does appear to be without the thumbnails at the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I've been told. I could have sworn I've seen on the replay that we're all still there. Maybe not. What do I know?
Sometimes it depends on if you click it or not.
I can't believe how slow this is. This should be done already.
That's because you told McAfee that it couldn't do what it wanted to.
Yeah.
Oh, that should speed things up. McAfee, we were discussing this last week, or the week before, I think, that all these virus scanning programs claim to not affect system resources, and they're all full of it.
They lie.
You know, I'll tell you, I run Kaspersky, and that is probably the most light footprint.
Really? Yeah. My husband just pushed me to that.
My favorite has always been AVG. I just got lazy because this computer came with McAfee and kept giving me the prompts, and finally I'm like, fine, I'll pay the stupid
That's
30
right.
bucks.
They beat you up till you bought it or signed up.
Normally what I do is as soon as I buy the computer, I uninstall McAfee and I immediately install AVG. and I wound up canceling my AVG subscription in favor of this because I'm like, what do I care? You know, I don't generally go on the sorts of websites that get you into trouble in the first place. So, and I kind of know how to be careful what to click on. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I wonder sometimes where people are going on the web because it's not that hard in my experience to, you know, understand when you're looking at something that's questionable, and for that reason you shouldn't click on it.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm not sure I agree with that. There are times that there are things that are questionable that could have pulled me in. For whatever reason, I stopped for a moment and then just like, wait a minute.
You can always see by hovering your mouse over a link on the web and looking at the bottom left of your browser to see where it's going to take you. There's no way to mask that. So you can tell if it's going by the domain name. You just have to understand how domain names and URLs function and work. You know.
Well, I guess I was talking about like being on Facebook and the secret little spammy viruses that you get from, like, if you have a friend and you know the friend and you get a second request for them, that could be spam. I mean, there's a lot of different ways without knowing that it's spam that you can.
Well, I got a friend request, actually, funny enough, from somebody who comes into our hangout here once in a while. I guess we weren't connected on Facebook, or it was a spoofed account because I thought I was already friends with the guy. This is when I was in the airport coming back from Vegas on Tuesday night. And right away, something seemed weird because it didn't sound like him, just the way the writing was coming through. And this was in the Facebook Messenger, and he started saying some weird things like, "Oh, I'm so grateful and blessed because of Facebook." And next thing I know, he's trying to talk me into clicking on a link that supposedly will show me how to get $150,000 in like grant money that Facebook is giving out. And I'm just like, so at this point I said, okay, but here's the really important question: who are you really? Because I'm pretty sure this isn't, you know, so and so. And he said, oh no, it's me. I've been so blessed. I can't believe I got this grant. And then he dropped the link in, and I said, okay, I'll get right on that. And of course I ignored him. I mean, you just don't click on something like that. I'm sure if I clicked on it, it would have given that person access to my Facebook account such that they could start messaging all of my contacts.
That would be a lot of people.
Yeah,
and that's
sure would.
happening a lot. There are a lot of spoofed profiles out there, and sometimes it's not so easy to tell if they are spoofed or not.
Yeah, because they can grab your picture and everything, so it looks just, you know.
Right?
No, that's for sure, but that's why you have to, you know, if something doesn't look right, it's probably not right. And always err on the side of, you know what, I'm not going to click on something unless I'm absolutely certain.
And like Stacy says, trust your gut.
Yeah.
She still hasn't gotten in, has she?
No, I don't think she was actually trying to, or maybe she was on her mobile, because I got a message from her, I got a text message from her actually, explaining that she's a little busy and she can't make it, and it appears from what I saw in the text message that she's getting her hair done right now. So
That's important.
Ooh!
of course it is.
I can't wait to see what she does today.
I thought
Maybe
I saw some purple. Now, I don't know
Maybe
if
she'll
that's
go green
washing
for the
out the old
holidays.
purple or putting in the new purple.
No, green is for St. Patrick's Day. It's too
Oh,
early.
yeah. Maybe she'll do gold and red. I don't know.
She's going to kill me for bringing this up. All right, now it's time to export the profit and loss. So first I'm going to save this, right?
Oh, that was painful. That took forever.
If I knew it was going to take this long, I would have done it before the hangout. I'm sorry to bore people with the export process. Here's a little whip folder.
Well, we can always talk about technical issues.
This is true.
Since we seem to have no shortage of those.
You know, when you live kind of on the edge of technology, I think that's par for the course.
Yep.
So some of the slower adopters are, in a sense, smart because they wait until people like us work out all the bugs. Quiet out there. All right, so now we're going to create a new worksheet in an existing workbook. Everybody knows the difference between a worksheet and a workbook, right?
Yes, sir.
Just making sure.
There's all these students going, wait, tell me.
Oh my gosh.
I'll explain it. So, and I love this thing I started doing. I put a folder on my desktop called WIP. So this way it's just quick reference to drop files in there, and it doesn't commingle it in the downloads folder that often many of us do.
I have the same thing. I call it temp.
Yeah.
Temporary.
I have one that's called OK to delete. Because whenever it
That's a
goes
little
in there,
scary. Because what if you haven't saved it somewhere else and you don't want to delete it?
I don't put it there in the first place.
So we have a new worksheet and an existing workbook. So the workbook is the whole spreadsheet with all the tabs in it. Each tab is a worksheet, for those of you kids watching from home who didn't know that. All right, so now we have to wait for this to export. And what you're going to do is, and this is what I kind of wanted to highlight here anyway, is as you notice, I've got everything totaled by month. So what we're going to do to address our friend in Abo's concern here is basically the only difference is you're going to make the columns a daily column rather than a monthly column. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to make the spreadsheet's going to get very wide very quickly to have a column for each day.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, what you're going to have to do, when you're doing it monthly, you have plenty of room to go for a while. And generally speaking, you're not going to keep more than 2 or 3 years in place. Here, you'll be lucky if you can fit 1 year. Well, there's more than 365 columns, but, I would almost say weekly would be maybe the most frequently I would want to do something like this ever. But I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. I could swear I had done a video on YouTube about how to do a daily budget, like just in case you want to. But I couldn't find it. It would have been a very long time ago. But this is what you're going to do. So, and the other thing we could do is, you could do kind of what I do in the Bookkeeper's Delight course in School of Bookkeeping, where I have the check register report exported from QuickBooks, and then you can kind of flow your projected receivables and sales right into the balance, through the spreadsheet. So if you take that course, for those of you who are in schoolofbookkeeping.com, it actually shows you a solution that probably would work very well, but it assumes that you only have one bank account. Now, what I've done in cases like this where there are multiple bank accounts is usually there's one primary operating account, right? And then you have a couple of other accounts. Maybe one's a savings and maybe one's like a payroll account. So what I've done is I've taken the operating account. You get to the bottom of the balance in that account, and then I just flow in the balances from the other accounts at the bottom to show the total cash available. And then below that, I'll show the projected payables coming out, and below that, I'll show the projected receivables coming in, or vice versa. You might want to show the receivables coming in first. It's more exciting. But basically, that then flows into your projected total cash. If that's what this client is primarily concerned about, then that's what we'd want to do. What I'm showing here is going to be, if anything, aimed at developing a much more detailed flow where you're taking everything into account, because we've got the balance sheet, we've got the profit and loss, and then we're going to build the statement of cash flows based on the two. That is, if this export ever completes. I mean, I can't believe this is still going, but it's just because the Google Hangout, plus everything else, is just taxing my bandwidth. Come on, I wanted to do Excel today, not QuickBooks.
So in the meantime,
I don't think
Seth,
he can hear you.
in the meantime, Seth, does that mean that you found AVG a stronger antivirus than McAfee?
I like it better. AVG, I switched to AVG from Norton years ago, and Norton was just getting annoying. And I was starting to get the feeling that Norton was like creating its own viruses just to give itself something to clean up.
I agree with you.
So I switched to AVG based on the advice of a tech guy that I knew way back when, and I loved it. I felt secure with AVG. I can't even give you a specific reason as to why, but if you have ever read the book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, you'll kind of get where I'm coming from on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think AVG, but and Kaspersky may be great too. I've never used that one. So but AVG, once I started using it, I felt like I was protected.
We've used Kaspersky for years. It's one of the few that doesn't interfere with Ben's coding environment.
Nice.
Yeah.
What is it called again? Can you type it in the chat what the name of it is?
Sure. Let me get my arm back from the cat.
It's phonetic. It's just like it sounds. Kaspersky.
Yeah. Here's Marvy.
Oh,
Harvey.
so cute.
He looks fluffy, like it's winter time and he's growing his coat.
Yeah, I don't know why. He hasn't been outside in like 2 weeks.
Smart kitty.
He's
Folks,
like,
we've got P&L.
Yay!
By the way, while we're at it, let me go back to QuickBooks for a minute. See, this is going to be a QuickBooks Hangout, because I want to show you something. I don't know why I didn't do this in the first place. But, all right, so let's just go to this fiscal year to date. And then in your total by, you can actually total by day right here in QuickBooks, which is what I probably should have done.
Oh, Lord.
So, again, it's going to be a very wide spreadsheet. So,
She's
just in the
accrual.
interest of what?
If she's accrual, that's not going to tell her
Cash.
No, yeah, that's why you have to do the statement of cash flows. Stay with me, guys. I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
No, that's the whole reason you need the statement of cash flows. So, but you're not going to run the statement of cash flows out of QuickBooks. You're going to build it here so that you can, make changes. So I'm going to get rid of the total column. And in theory, these could be days instead of months, right? So how you lay it out is the same. It's just a matter of the sort of frequency that you set.
And wouldn't it be nice if QuickBooks had that?
Yeah.
Cash flow report.
Like a real one.
Well, it is a real one, but the problem with it is it doesn't let you total it by month.
Yeah.
The QuickBooks statement of cash flows will only let you do a single date range on a single report. So, and just to show you what I mean, if I go to run the statement of cash flows, it works. The other thing you have to be aware of that's a little weird is it doesn't really regard the undeposited funds account. It won't even let you map it because there's a mapping in the preferences in QuickBooks where you can establish which accounts on the balance sheet affect which part of the statement of cash flows, whether it's operating activities, financing, or investing. But the undeposited funds account, it doesn't even allow you to tie in anywhere because it treats the undeposited funds accounts the same as cash. So basically what you have to do on the balance sheet to sort of reconcile. See, here it is. Now I'm going to say remind me later, and it's going to start scanning again. That's exactly what I did before.
Yeah, and that's why you started getting all fuzzy sounding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
The echoing.
well, so that's because somebody else is echoing me back in, I think.
I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. So the statement of cash flows, in order to sort of reconcile it with the balance sheet. No, it's not you, Jessica, because I'm still echoing.
You could try one at a time.
So, all right, well, if everybody wants to mute and see. All right, so yeah, now the echo's gone. So we know it's not Dennis. No, it is Dennis. All right, Dennis, you mute for a second. Let's see if it goes away. Yeah, it was Dennis.
Still Dennis?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not making it echo, am I?
It's not Jessica. It was Dennis. It was Dennis's fault.
Poor Dennis.
Poor Dennis.
Wah, wah.
So what will happen is if there is undeposited funds as of the date that you're running the statement of cash flows, the ending cash balance will not match the balance sheet, and the difference is always the undeposited funds, which is also on the balance sheet. So you have to take the total of all your bank account balances plus the undeposited funds account, and that will equal the cash at the end of the period on the statement of cash flows. So it's really important to understand that that's how QuickBooks does this. It looks at undeposited funds as the same as cash, which does actually make sense because in theory I have constructively received that money if it's in undeposited funds.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's the definition of cash received is constructive receipt, meaning the check's in my hand. I just haven't put it in the bank yet. And the assumption is that most checks hopefully aren't going to bounce. So the problem with I wish QuickBooks would let you total this by month, but there's just no option to do so. And I'm certainly not going to run 12 different statements of cash flows with each different month. It just doesn't make sense. Plus, the statement of cash flows, for the purposes of a projection like this, is going to be entirely calculated. So I just build my own. Now, what I will do is, just to save time, and let me back this up a year so I make sure that I include all the accounts that will be affected, is I'll export this, and then I'll remove the amount column. I just want to get the accounts in place, just so I don't have to sit there doing them all. So we're going to export this. Again, a new worksheet, an existing workbook. Before you do this, especially when you've just added something, you always have to save it, because if you export to an existing workbook from QuickBooks without having saved it, you'll lose the last round of changes. So make sure you do that.
Yep, I've done that a few times.
Me too. Well, and especially when I have clients where I have a series of memorized reports that I'm dropping into Excel because they don't want to or can't go into QuickBooks. I've gotten myself frustrated because after spending a half an hour exporting reports, I end up forgetting to save it, and then I don't remember which report is missing. I have to go one by one through them, and usually that happens when I'm because I get bored with it when I'm exporting reports. So like while I'm waiting, I'll just like a squirrel runs by and I get distracted and then I forget to save. So the moral of the story is you got to force yourself to pay attention, as boring as it is sitting here exporting reports. It would be so nice if you could just tell QuickBooks to export this whole memorized report group into a single Excel workbook. That would be awesome.
Yes.
See,
Put that on your wish list for 2015.
Too late. 2016 now.
Oh, yeah, I mean 2016. Sorry.
That's okay. Unless they could do it in like a release, maybe.
But yeah.
All right, so I think that okay, so somehow it seems to be working faster now. Which is a good thing. So now we get the statement of cash flows, and I'm just going to, blow out that whole column. I really don't care about it. I just need the names here. So now the net income is going to be tied, and we need to create the timeline. Let me get rid of this extra instructions. So the first thing is we have to fix the timeline, right? And by the way, I don't know if you noticed, I took the total away from the P&L. I don't want totals in there. I can create them myself when I need them, but for now I need a pure timeline. And the last month that comes in theory, is going to be an incomplete month because it's the month that you're in. So I always remove that one too because that's going to end up being a projected month. Any month that's incomplete, even though we're more than halfway through, it still has to be like a projected month, until you've closed the books out for that month. So then what we're going to do is we're going to create the statement of cash flows, but first we've got to develop the timeline. The month descriptions, or in our case perhaps the day descriptions, are going to be a text-based description, so you'll need to overwrite that. So if this is December of 2017, I need to put 12/1/17 in there, and then I need to make sure I'm formatted properly. For a date, notice it comes in formatted as text because we exported it from a database, which is what QuickBooks is. So I've got to change this, and I just like to stick with the standard double-digit formatting so everything kind of lines up nice when I need it to. And you've all seen me write this formula a million times. We're going to take the year of the previous one, comma, the month of the previous one, plus 1, comma, the day. And again, it's not formatted for date yet, so it comes in just showing the formula as a string of text. And then you still, even after changing it, have to go in, edit the cell, and then change it. Now let's hope when I copy this across, that works. So once you copy it across, it adopts the formatting and copies the formatting across with it. So now, and of course I use the first of the month because every month has a first, but not every month has a 31st, right? So this way I choose something that's sort of consistent. Now that I've got this in place, let's change the formatting. Let's go custom. Month, month, month. Year, year. So I have a 3-digit month format and a double-digit day format. And it's funny, it did it on everything except the first one. Let's just paste the formatting there. There we go. So now I've got my timeline set, so I can go back to my P&L here too and paste that in. And again, for daily, you would just do this for every month. And then the trick, of course, is creating a statement of cash flow. So let's get that timeline dropped in here. And I noticed my columns were off, actually, when I updated the P&L. So I'm hoping I didn't delete something somewhere that I shouldn't have. December through November looks right. All right, so the net income is just going to come straight from the P&L on the statement of cash flows. I should probably rename these so I know what I'm looking at. This is balance sheet. And we're just going to grab the net income and copy that across. So wow, it's gotten so quiet, I guess, because everybody's muted. I feel like I'm all alone.
That's because we just love you watching you in Excel, Seth. It's like poetry in motion.
Oh.
All right. The rest of this is actually pretty easy once you understand what we're doing here. The reason the statement of cash flows gets so confusing is because we see numbers and we're used to looking at the P&L and balance sheet where the numbers that we see represent an actual balance. You have to understand that statement of cash flows doesn't represent a balance, it represents a change to a balance, right? So when you understand that, what we're doing is we're just reconciling net income for the month to cash, right? And that goes back to Sarah's comment about cash, about accrual basis and not being accurate cash flow wise, which is why you need the statement of cash flows, because it literally does just that. It reconciles what your net income number is to what the cash is in the bank at the end of the period. So whether you do this monthly or daily doesn't make a difference. Just daily means, like I said, you're going to have a very long spreadsheet. But the concept is the same. And then what happens is, going back to the question that, you know, with a group in Facebook, the answer to her question is that to update sales, what you're going to need to do is create a supporting schedule. Let me see if I can get through it. I only have about 10 minutes left. So the first thing is, but you create this, once this is all balanced, then you can create all the supporting schedules you want, flow them to the P&L and the balance sheet as appropriate, and then you can say, okay, if I got paid on a receivable, I have a receivable schedule that now shows that I've received a payment that flows to accounts receivable to reduce accounts receivable in the current month. Now you're in a sense duplicating your accounting system here, but if that's what the client wants and they're willing to pay for it, I could do this stuff all day long. In fact, send the client to me. I'll do it if they're willing to pay. Right? I'll charge $1,000 a day, and I'll keep it up to date every day. Right? That's right. And I'll spend a couple hours a day, and it'll be done. Right? And that's not a bad living to make. Right? $5,000 a week. That works. I can do that. You know, and then on top of everything else. So we're looking at changes in balances, and we have to consider that assets and liabilities, of course, work opposite one another, right? The net income line here aggregates all of the activity that happened on the P&L, right? There's nothing more that needs to be considered on the P&L here for this purpose. We've in one single number, we've captured the bottom line of all the P&L, all the income statement activity kind of flows into this one bottom line figure. Right, so we end up with the 754.32. So now we have to look at what happens, and if you think about a set of books that has nothing on it, and I post an invoice for a sale, but I haven't collected the payment on it yet. What that means is, let's say I invoice somebody for $1,000, but I haven't collected it yet. Accounts receivable increases, right? But that's $1,000 that's included in this net income figure, which I haven't received yet. So I have to subtract that amount. So if accounts receivable increases, for that matter, if any asset increases, I have to subtract that change from net income to arrive at cash, because an increase in an asset means an increase in income, let's say, or something related in the same manner as income is, such that I haven't received the money, so I have to subtract it from net income to arrive at cash. So how do we do that? If accounts receivable increases, I need it to be negative, which means I need to take last month and subtract the current month. Right? And I'm just showing you the out loud thought process that helps you understand how to write the formula, which is actually very simple. It's simple subtraction. So I'm going to go to accounts receivable in the first period, and I'm going to go to the balance sheet, and really it's actually going to be, because we're in the first period, I'm going to take this, actually this, minus this. So the first period is a little weird. Usually what I do is I put a buffer in there, and I start 1 month prior on the balance sheet compared with the P&L. That way I have that starting point of 0 in effect to start with here for the purposes of writing this formula. Right? Then once I have that in place, I can copy that across. And now I have the formula in place for every single asset account that's here. Notice the statement of cash flows. It's all balance sheet accounts that we're going to see here, because we start with the net income, and then we have to reconcile all the changes in all the balance sheet accounts to arrive at cash. And that's how we get our cash flow. So I have the formula in place for every asset. So let's go to prepaid insurance. I'm just going to copy this down. Then all I need to know is where's the prepaid insurance account. It's on line 16. So we'll go back to the statement of cash flows and change it from 14 here to 16 here. And if you're following, I'm up here in the formula bar, way up at the top. And once I have the whole row highlighted as I do here, if I hold down the control key while I'm editing a single cell and hit enter, it updates it for everything. Excepting that, again, I think I have an issue of formatting here.
I didn't know that. That was worth the whole hangout right there.
Oh, the control enter? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do something here. All right. Format the cell. See, that's the problem with exporting. There's a way to clear this up once and for all, but I don't have time to go into it right now. I feel so much pressure because the hour's almost over.
Might have to go a little over.
I don't know. I don't want to make people mad. Okay, so it's
about going and watching it later.
That's true.
Yeah, go over. Who cares?
Okay, so I have this. When I copy this down, now it pulls the formatting in. I don't know why it didn't do that the first time. Let's get the formatting copied up here. Alt E is in Edward, S is in Special, and then I'll paste my formats in there so I'm consistent. So now the employee advances, I just need to go to the balance sheet and find what row those are on. 17. So since I copied it down one row from above, that should have updated consistently anyway for me. And it appears to have, because there's no changes here in employee advances. So that's good. Now we go to the statement of cash flows again, and inventory also is next in line. That's line 18. Control page up will actually move tabs at the bottom. So control page up will move to the left one tab. Control page down will move to the right one tab. So again, keyboard shortcuts save you a ton of time in the long run rather than having to grab the mouse every 2 seconds. So inventory assets, the next line, and then sure enough we have undeposited funds, which we're going to have to add in because, like I said, the statement of cash flows, see here it is, stop warning me, go away. The statement of cash flows doesn't include undeposited funds, but for this purpose we need to, right? Because the only other, well, you could add it back into the cash amount, but that gets a little brain dead. So I always add the undeposited funds account in for this purpose so that I can balance properly. So I'm going to highlight the whole row beneath inventory asset, control shift and the plus sign inserts a line. And then just so that there's no question, rather than trying to type it, I copy and paste the account. Now I can copy this down and it should update. Line 19, I still always confirm, even if I'm 100% sure. I want to be 110% sure. So because if you mess this up, it can take you an hour to find the problem and fix it. So it's much better to go very slow when you're building the statement of cash flows to make sure it balances right the first time. So it's line 19 on the balance sheet is where it's pulling from. And undeposited funds is line 19. So we're good there. Okay, now we have our first liability account on the books. So what I'm going to do is, again, the first time I'm going to just rewrite the formula on accounts payable. So if accounts receivable is taking the prior month minus the current, then accounts payable is the opposite. It has to take the current month minus the prior because it's a liability. It works the exact opposite way. So the accounts payable first month, let's go to the balance sheet, take the current month minus the prior. And again, I know it's a little weird that I'm clicking in the area where the description is, but again, that's just because that first month we need that sort of buffer. We need a starting point somewhere. All right, and I just copied the formatting down to the whole row, so that I should be able to copy this across. And oftentimes what I like to do is make sure that the formula appears to be working. Obviously in the first month the change should be the entire amount of that month because you're starting from 0. And then the next one, we can just do a quick test and say current month minus prior is $6.60. Survey says that's correct, right? Now we have a credit card, another liability account. So I'm going to copy it from accounts payable. And let's go back to the balance sheet and find that credit card, Cal Oil card. It's on line 36. Back to the statement of cash flows with the whole row highlighted. Let's make both of these a 36. And then Sarah's new trick, Control Enter, boom, the whole row updates that formula. We have 2 other credit cards. So again, this one's the QBCC field office. It's a QuickBooks credit card field office. Even in the sample company file, Intuit is advertising. So this is line 38. Whoops. And I'll tell you exactly why this is happening. Because in this particular case, the previous column actually has a verbal description in it. So it's not picking it up well in the formula. So what I'll do in that case, only in the first month, is I'll just set it equal to the first month because we know that's going to work. Now we have payroll liabilities. So again, copy down from any liability line. What line is payroll liabilities on? 43.
Seth, moving forward, could you just keep this statement of cash flows and on a daily basis put in the net income?
Yeah, that's the beauty of this, is because the statement of cash flows isn't, you only have to do this once because everything's formula based here. There's nothing manually entered. So once I get this balanced, and I'm sure I'm running low on time, so I'm going to stop here, but we can continue next week with this, and this way I'll go back and make sure that everything's balanced, because like I said, when I was setting it up and I dropped in the timeline for the P&L, I had too many extra columns, so I have a feeling this wouldn't balance anyway because I'm just going fast to show you how to lay it out. But the answer to your question is absolutely. Once it's done, and if I want to go further out in the timeline, because of the way I've written this formula, all I have to do is copy and paste to the right, and it automatically increments my columns and calculates everything for me. You'll see zeros in here because I have to go back and extend the P&L and the balance sheet timelines as well.
But couldn't you, if the balance sheet's the shorter schedule, couldn't you just hand key in net income? If she wants to do this on a daily basis.
Yeah, so that's exactly what she could do. But in order for the whole thing to balance properly, you really can't just hand key in net income because that net income is flowing from things on the balance sheet like accounts receivable.
If your balance sheet, especially if you do rows that are really groups of insurance and groups of credit cards and all, it wouldn't take too long to just key in grand totals.
You're better off, just because of the way things have to flow, to make sure that you stay in balance, creating a schedule for accounts receivable such that when you collect money, you just put an entry in that accounts receivable schedule that says, I just received, $1,000. And then once you put in that schedule, it flows to accounts receivable to reduce accounts receivable, which will then flow to the statement of cash flows to increase the amount of cash we have, right? Because remember, when I collect, well, there's really no impact on the P&L even. Now, if I want to record an accrual basis sale, remember, if I want to add that into sales, I also have to add that into accounts receivable. Otherwise, my balance sheet is going to be out of balance. Because as soon as I add that net income number, right, remember, net income has to close out to the balance sheet in the equity section, so that's going to be off. Because I have to, in other words, I have to do the debit and the credit in order for everything to stay balanced. So that's why when I set this up, I'd be very careful relying on just overwriting the net income number because it's going to throw you out of balance. Your balance sheet's going to be off.
But you'll have to rebuild the P&L underneath it every day.
No. What I would do is I would create a schedule. I would create a schedule for sales so that when I can go into that schedule and say I just sold another deal for $1 million, right? And that will flow over to my income projection line item, which will flow down to my net income, which will also flow over to my accounts receivable to increase accounts receivable. So just like you would in a real accounting system, everything flows and everything stays balanced. But that's why you get the P&L, the balance sheet, and the statement of cash flows all set up and balanced, and then you create the supporting schedules that flow to the right places in the P&L and balance sheet. You never have to touch the statement of cash flows again once it's balanced, unless you add a balance sheet account to your books.
Do you have time next week to show us to the end?
Yeah, I'll continue this next week. So, and here comes the shameless plug. If you download Nerd's cash flow projections, I did this a few years ago. Gina was in that one live, actually. So that's how long we've been doing this for. But that's a 3-hour webinar where I do actually go through and complete the whole process, and it includes the template that we created during that session. For a low price of $97, 3-hour video and a template. But yeah, I'll continue this next week as well. I'll try and clean this up and make sure it's gonna. I'll try and get it balanced off camera, so to speak, and that way, you know, we can continue this, because the real exciting part, I think, is what happens once it's built. You know, what you're able to do in terms of projecting everything. So, and of course, this is going to become a full-fledged course at schoolofbookkeeping.com pretty soon. So that's another thing to look forward to. In the Mastering Excel for Accounting Pros course, one of the reasons I wanted to do this today was because it's on my mind that I'm going to do a very simplified version of it, you know, just doing simple cash flow modeling, just as part of the natural evolution of an Excel course for accountants, to now that we've covered all the different stuff in the course as far as getting data organized and together and manipulated, and then I did pivot tables most recently in that. So now it makes sense for me to say, all right, let's start looking at some simple cash flow forecasting in that course. And so that's actually, I'm possibly going to be recording some of that this weekend and releasing it next week in School of Bookkeeping. So stay tuned for that. Gina, we'll see you at 2:30 today, Pacific, 5:30 Eastern.
Yeah, my husband's going to explain DNS, Open DNS.
Yay! Thank you very
fascinating.
much.
Well, I have an eye appointment, so I won't make it, Gina, but it's good to see you guys.
Good
Great
to
to
see
see
you,
you,
Nancy.
Nancy.
Come when you can.
I will. I will.
Bye, everyone.
Try.
Bye.
Bye.